What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jess and I post travel and food related content as well as my stories with anxiety, self-love, and just stories about myself, just so you guys can get to know me a little better. And recently I watched a video from a fellow traveler. Her name is Vegan Nomad Chick, and she talked about her life living in Europe and what she learned about Europe as well as America and her experience and outlook on life basically, and her culture of being an American and how living abroad has changed her. So I thought I would share my story, and I want to link her video down below because it's a really good one as well. I wanted to share my story on how I view America and how I view Europe and just myself, I guess, because I have lived abroad for 5 years, specifically in Europe. I am now 27 years old, and I first hopped on a plane to live overseas in Tbilisi, Georgia, and that was in 2014, beginning of the year in January. We lived there for 2 years, and then we moved to Belgrade, Serbia, lived there for 2 years, and now we're in Riga, Latvia. So I have lived in very non-tourist-like places that the average American or American tourist would even visit. Luckily, throughout the years, those places are becoming more and more popular to see, and I specifically fell in love with Belgrade, Serbia, and Riga, Latvia is blowing my mind with how beautiful it is, and it is becoming more and more of a popular place to visit for people all around the world, which is excellent. So basically, I want to share my story on how I now view things because of my experience of living abroad and how I view American culture. So to begin with, I think that a lot of Europeans there's different classes, of course, everywhere in America. It's a huge country. And when I lived in Tbilisi, we lived in an apartment, and we were constantly out of electricity, out of water, and I never experienced that before. Georgia is actually considered a third world country because it's developing. I mean, I wouldn't compare it to third world countries that you may know of in the media, but yeah, I definitely experienced things that the locals experience of going, not having running water some days, not having hot water, not having electricity, and all of the food in our refrigerator and freezer went bad. So that definitely sucked. However, I had some friends, and I knew some of the locals, and things like that would happen to them all the time, and they wouldn't even complain. They would walk to work and walk to school in the snow, and these are all stories that we heard of from our parents back in the 60s when they would walk to school in the snow. In America, that was like pretty unheard of. And so overall, these kinds of experiences and stories have really humbled me, because when I do have like a simple thing as like, oh, the elevator's running today, yay, I don't have to go up and down 7 flights of stairs. This is great. And oh, I have electricity, I have hot running water. I used to take those things for granted. Basically, that experience has taught me to be humble, and I think that some, not all, but some Americans are pretty uncultured, and they may have never experienced things like that some people who are living in developing countries go through all the time. And it was just, like I said, it was just extremely humbling, and I don't take things for granted anymore that I used to. Another thing that stood out to me since I've been living in Europe, I've lived in post-Soviet countries. So there's a lot of people that still have that mentality, and they walk down the street and they don't really smile, and I've gotten used to that. And that's one thing that I do miss about America, is the overly friendly and the smiling and the opening the doors for one another and saying thank you. And I haven't really gotten that even from traveling all around Europe. I don't really see that kind of outgoing and people that will just go out of their way to help out a stranger. I haven't seen that done to me, and when it does happen, I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much for holding the door for me, because in Europe I really don't see that happening. So I definitely think that Americans have that reputation of being overly friendly for a reason, because we are. And I think I have cut down on my friendliness to an extent because I haven't been getting some of it in return. So I'm like, I'm gonna walk down the street and not smile at strangers anymore, because I don't have to, because I'm not getting smiled back. Of course, this doesn't happen all the time, but generally, that's kind of how the cultures are here. Now, you know, of course, I'm gonna say a disclosure that there's different cultures all throughout Europe, you know, and that not one specific country or city or town is the same, or the people are the same, and I'm not trying to generalize anyone, but I'm just going off of my experiences. Another thing that I have experienced compared that it's totally different to the US is safety precautions. I feel extremely safe in Europe. I have no problem walking by myself anywhere. I don't feel like there's men looking at me in a provocative way, or that they're going to grope me or anything like that, you know, because there are some instances in America where there's you know, situations where you shouldn't really put yourself in those that you know, there's certain instances that you try and avoid because some people can, you know, make you feel unsafe so easily in America. And obviously America has a lot of safety issues right now, which I'm not even going to go into, but I feel it's so funny because whenever I'm somewhere going to, you know, the places I've lived are places that people have never really heard of, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're gonna be in Serbia? Be safe, be safe. I'm like, okay, I'll be safe, but I feel safer here than I do back home. You know, I feel safer here. I'm sure people sending their kids to school here feel a lot better than sending their kids to school back in America. So I think European places, especially second world or third world countries, have this reputation of being unsafe when it's really not the case for a lot of them. Like I said, I feel pretty safe walking at nighttime. Of course, I'm always with my husband, but I've been with girlfriends walking around downtown at night, and I feel completely safe. So in America, I can't really say the same thing. I don't really feel 100% safe there. And it's pretty sad. Another thing that has changed in my life is that I walk everywhere. I mean, I am always walking, and I love to walk after work. I take my dog for a 30 to 40 minute walk, and I love doing it. But also, if my husband and I are going out to dinner, we're like, oh, okay, it's a 20-minute walk, okay, no problem. Versus back home, if somebody says, yeah, we're gonna walk to dinner, it's gonna be 20 minutes, they'll be like, let's get a cab. No, I'd rather drive. And yeah, I think Americans much rather drive places or get a cab, spend money, get an Uber, than to walk places. However, there's so many more parks, and there's so many more sidewalks and crosswalks here in Europe that allows people to walk, and people aren't really in a rush anyways. They take their time. My husband is the fastest walker on the planet, and he is always like, come on Jess, let's go. And I'm like, first off, I got short legs, but second off, let's just slow down. Like, take a look around. And I take a look around and I see these couples or people who are alone, and they are just walking at a slow pace and enjoying the day. Yes, of course, sometimes it can be frustrating, especially if you're in a rush to get somewhere, but yeah, everyone walks here, and I enjoy it. I like that everything is within walking distance, and it's accessible, and there's crosswalks, and there's parks that you can cut through, and I really enjoy that about living in Europe. There's just so much more that I can talk about this subject, and I'm just going to cut the video off right here. If you have any questions about my experience of living in Europe for the past 5 years, please leave your comments down below. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something if you've never lived abroad or have always wondered what my experience has been in comparing it to back home. Like I said, there's so much more that I could talk about. I'm sure I forgot some things that I could have covered or gone more into detail with, but I wanted to keep this video relatively short for you guys. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content from me. I am posting twice a week on content about travel, food, self-love, and anything in between. So until then, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.